Keeping a child perfectly safe sometimes requires handing them a heavy metal hammer. Over the past 3 decades, we have aggressively engineered the danger out of our play spaces. We replaced uneven terrain with flat rubber flooring, lowered the heights of climbing structures, and standardized equipment to completely eliminate physical risk. By removing uneven surfaces to navigate or heights to conquer, we inadvertently slowed motor skill development. This hyperprotective approach stripped play of its developmental value, contributing to a generation with diminished spatial awareness and higher rates of generalized anxiety. This chart shows severe injury rates across different play environments. The data reveals a surprising trend. Children actually experience higher rates of severe injuries on conventional, adult-designed playgrounds than they do in completely unstructured, child-built junk playgrounds. By removing obvious physical hazards, we also remove the cues that tell a child to pay attention. Stripping the environment of risk has not protected children. It has made them more physically and mentally vulnerable. Consider how humans develop fears. A long-term study looking at the fear of heights found that children who experienced frightening falls resulting in an injury before the age of 9 actually grew up to have a lower fear of heights at age 18. Engaging in activities that involve a healthy dose of physical danger functions as a built-in form of exposure therapy. By routinely encountering mildly terrifying situations, the developing brain builds a tolerance to the unknown. When a kid climbs too high or slides too fast, they experience autonomic physiological arousal. This is the rush of adrenaline, the racing heartbeat, and the rapid breathing that accompanies intense excitement. By seeking out these small thirsts of thrill, children practice feeling their heart pound and learning that it will eventually slow down. They become comfortable with their own physical stress responses. When childhood is sanitized of physical risk, the brain never gets the chance to calibrate that internal alarm system. A rapidly beating heart remains a terrifying anomaly, which can translate into debilitating anxiety and panic attacks in adulthood. Children are biologically hardwired to pursue the scary, funny sweet spot to practice survival skills. We see this clearly in rough-and-tumble play. Wrestling, chasing, and rolling around might look chaotic, but these physical interactions are essential mechanisms for learning social boundaries, building resilience, and developing conflict resolution tactics. This high-energy physical output actively promotes neuroplasticity. The physical and mental demands of unpredictable play force the brain to wire new pathways for real-time problem-solving. Adults often assume kids will blindly run into danger if left unsupervised. In reality, observational studies show that toddlers and young children are innately cautious risk assessors when allowed to navigate environments independently. They engage in risk negotiation. A child will test a gentle slope before attempting a steeper hill, or climb a lower branch dozens of times before attempting the next one up, constantly measuring their developing physical limits against the environment. Without the freedom to initiate these thrilling, borderline scary physical interactions, a child's prefrontal cortex lacks the raw data it needs to accurately calibrate real danger. Watch a child navigating a tree. They pause, looking up, deciding whether to push higher. In that split second, a complex calculation occurs. They test the wood's stability and gauge their grip strength and balance. They feel genuine fear as they reach up, but they figure out how to steady their breathing and pull themselves up anyway. The moment their feet find solid footing, their brain floods with a profound sense of joy and mastery. They have survived a self-imposed challenge. Every time a child successfully resolves a physical risk on their own, they bank a generalized psychological courage. They learn they can be terrified, maintain their composure, and execute a plan. The exact skills required to survive real emergencies later in life. To give children these essential developmental tools back, researchers and educators are reviving adventure playgrounds, sometimes known as junk playgrounds. These spaces reject rubber floors and plastic slides. Instead, they offer large, unstructured zones filled with loose parts, scavenged lumber, old tires, hand tools, and natural obstacles. The adults in these environments, known as play workers, take a deliberate step back. They provide distant supervision, observe the children's choices, and only step in if a situation becomes truly life-threatening. Traditional equipment is often designed for isolated, repetitive motion, which offers little support for social learning. In contrast, adventure playgrounds demand constant negotiation and teamwork to move a heavy pipe or build a shelter, an environment where children with learning and communication differences frequently thrive. Because the hazards in a junk playground are obvious, children are forced to respect their surroundings. They look where they step, test materials they build with, and as a result, these chaotic spaces consistently produce lower rates of severe injury. Integrating risk back into play doesn't require an official junk playground. It can start with a simple behavioral shift for adults, the 15-second rule. Unless a child is in immediate catastrophic danger, adults should pause and count to 15 seconds before intervening. Give the child the time to assess the situation and solve the physical problem themselves. This is incredibly difficult. It requires adults to tolerate their own extreme discomfort and unlearn modern conditioning that tells us a good parent hovers over every move. But when we pull back, we give them room to grow. A child who is allowed to conquer a shaky branch today is actively building the neurological framework required to conquer the unpredictable realities of adulthood tomorrow.